Wow, just my presence caused like I would love that. That's amazing. So welcome everybody. My name is Alfred Ayub. I'm the Director of Admissions and Marketing at Columbia Climate School. I am thrilled that you are all here today. I'm certain everybody in this audience is change agents and individuals that want to make a world a better place through sustainability. So in today's session, what we're going to go ahead and do at this open house is really explore 4 distinct programs within Columbia University. And I just want to briefly go over the agenda with you, just so you get a kind of a better sense of what's going to be happening today. First and foremost, I'm going to perform a broad overview of our graduate programs. Again, this is not intended to be the ultimate overview necessarily. It's just kind of an amuse-bouche, if you will, or a little taste of what these programs look like. And what I really encourage you to do is explore these programs deeper in the breakout sessions. After the introduction, we're going to then go ahead and move into our faculty panel. We have faculty representing all 4 of our programs today. We're then going to transition to our alumni and current student panel at 10:30 a.m. And then, of course, the degree program breakout sessions. There's 2 sessions between 11:20 a.m. and 12:45 p.m. And then finally, we conclude today with an optional campus tour. That's going to be departing from Faculty House first floor at 12:45 sharp. I do want to spend a little bit time on the breakout sessions because I just want to make sure everybody kind of understands the structure. So raise your hand here if you're MS in Sustainability Management or you're thinking about MS in Sustainability Management. Excellent. Okay, Maria Gray, our Director of Sustainability, is going to be exceptionally happy to see all those hands go up. So if that's the case, if Sustainability Management is your primary program today, then you will stay in this space, the Presidential Room, 3rd floor, for the breakout session. Does anybody want to volunteer a second program they might be thinking about? Which one? Who? Climate and Society. Excellent. So if you're interested in Climate and Society for session 2, for example, you would go upstairs to the 4th floor. Anybody interested in Sustainability Science here? Awesome. We love that. So Sustainability Science is going to be on the 1st floor, garden level. And then anybody interested in the MPA in Environmental Science and Policy? Phenomenal. So you're going to go ahead and do is just go through these doors, through the elevators. There's a door there to enter and see that breakout session. I do want to stress breakout session 1 and 2 are identical. So I don't want you to feel like you're missing out if you miss the first breakout session for one program and not the other. Something else I just want to also emphasize is that this is an introduction. And one thing to note is we host virtual information sessions dedicated to each one of these programs every single month. So if you're in the audience and you're like, you know what, I have a 3rd and I can't go to a 3rd breakout session, what do I do? In that case, register for one of our upcoming virtual information sessions. That's going to be the deepest dive into the curriculum, the resources, the alumni community. So again, the journey does not end, the journey continues here. So now I'm going to go into a little bit of a background on Columbia University and specifically then transitioning to Columbia Climate Schools and the Earth Institute. Columbia University is the 5th oldest institution in the country. We are the oldest in the state of New York. Our original name was King's College. Fun fact, we were originally at the Trinity Church in southern Manhattan, right on Wall Street, and then eventually migrated to Midtown, in where Rockefeller Center stands today. And then we finally migrated all the way up here to Morningside Heights in the 1890s. A lot of people come to this campus thinking we've been around since the 1700s, these buildings, and it's actually a relatively new campus in terms of our history. When you say the name Columbia University, you think of it as a major research institution. Columbia University, think of it as an umbrella, and underneath that umbrella are 21 distinct schools. Most of those schools are graduate. We are featuring some of those schools today. The School of International and Public Affairs, SIPA, the School of Professional Studies, and now Columbia Climate School. So transitioning now, I want to talk a little bit more about Columbia Climate School and the Earth Institute, because this is how all of these programs thematically overlap and partner with one another. The Climate School is the newest school within the Columbia University fabric, so to speak. We were announced in 2020, launched in 2021. But the school, even though it is new, it comes from a very long-standing history. We were birthed out of the Earth Institute, and the Earth Institute was birthed out of the Lamont Doherty Earth Observatory. In fact, that photo in the bottom left corner is Lamont Doherty Earth Observatory. It's a 189-acre campus. It's ranked the #1 scientific institution for earth and environmental sciences. And Lamont has an over 70-year history with Columbia University. In fact, 2 of our faculty members speaking today are Lamont researchers and faculty. And all of our programs today intersect with Lamont faculty. All of them will have courses that are taught by Lamont faculty in an applied environmental science sense. Then you have the Earth Institute, which is the largest research institute within Columbia University. Over 750 environmental scientists, policy analysts, managers, lawyers, and engineers working on issues of sustainable development and environmental management. So while Columbia Climate School is new, again, we were formed with a very strong foundation through Lamont Doherty Earth Observatory and, of course, the Earth Institute itself. To again give a primer over the 4 programs that we're discussing, the first is the MA in Climate and Society, housed within Columbia Climate School. Then we have our phenomenal sustainability programs, MS in Sustainability Management within the School of Professional Studies, along with the MS in Sustainability Science. And then finally, we have the MPA in Environmental Science and Policy program within the School of International and Public Affairs. I want to just note that all of these programs are very mission-driven. All of you are going to be interested in these programs because you have a deep commitment to the environment, to sustainability. You want to be change agents, whether it's through the public space or the private sector. But these programs are very different and unique from one another in terms of structure, potentially timeline, depending on your enrollment plan, and also when you plan to enroll in a program. So the MA in Climate and Society is a 1-year interdisciplinary program. It does require full-time enrollment. It would be 3 semesters in length, and you can begin the program in the fall semester. The MPA in Environmental Science and Policy is also a 1-year program. It is action-packed. We're going to go into that a little further. It's 54 credit hours, also 3 semesters, but that program begins specifically in the summer. And then we have our sustainability programs. Both are 36 credit hours. Both could be potentially completed in 3 semesters if you choose to enroll full-time. Although I will say the vast majority of our sustainability students are part-time working professionals, which comes with some huge benefits there. We'll talk about that. And so you could complete that program in 1 year, or typically 3 years, potentially taking up to 4.5 years, which is the length that Columbia would allow in terms of the maximum, so to speak. The other element here for these sustainability programs, you could enroll in the fall semester or the spring semester. So you have 2 opportunities to potentially begin this program. These programs, I should say. So let me first touch on the MA in Climate and Society program. As I mentioned, it's a 1-year interdisciplinary program. Many of you in the audience might think this must be a new program because it's under the Climate School. It is in fact not. It was established in 2005, specifically with the Graduate School of Arts and Sciences, and since migrated to Columbia's Climate School. The program is very flexible in nature, especially as we discuss the electives, and I'll talk about kind of the cross-registration journey and the opportunities for all of our programs, quite frankly, as it relates to cross-registration. Another unique element of this program, I think, that distinguishes it from other programs is the fact that there is a final semester internship that would be 6 credit hours within your 34 credit hour journey, although you could potentially do a capstone as an alternative. And within this program, the 34 credits, there is something we like to call the climate core. We recognize that climate intersects with many different professions, and as it relates to those different professions, we feel regardless of what you hope to do, whether it's in a research capacity, maybe in an entrepreneurial spirit, in a policy sense, that you should have a foundation knowledge as it relates to climate in its specific curriculum. Maybe it's relating to climate data analytics or understanding just the nature of climate change from a scientific perspective at the macro level. In terms of our electives, they are very, very flexible. You're able to essentially cross-register in any courses at Columbia University, that as long as it's a graduate level course. We've had students that have cross-registered at Columbia Law School. The School of International and Public Affairs has some very popular courses, along with the Graduate School of Arts and Sciences. Many students come to this program with a very specific goal in mind, and then some students are very exploratory. Maybe they want to take a public health course, and then enroll in a sustainability management class, and then engage in an urban planning class at the Graduate School of Architecture, Planning, and Preservation. So it just depends on the student. Transitioning now to the Masters of Public Administration and Environmental Science Policy. This is the oldest program within the portfolio we are discussing today. It was established in 2002. They have over 500 alumni, fascinating alumni community in terms of their work in policy and sustainability. Something I found out recently. Who's familiar with the Revel app? Anybody familiar with the rideshare Revel? Yeah, so the CEO of that company is actually an alum of the MPA in Environmental Science and Policy. Just fun fact, throwing it out there. In terms of its key features, this is much more than a policy program. It's very important to stress that. This program is going to give you a broad basis for environmental science. So your first semester, you'll be exploring courses ranging from urban ecology, toxicology, climatology. You'll also be exploring policy courses as well as management courses. And the curriculum is based on 5 different content areas. Of the programs that we are discussing today, this program is the truest cohort program, meaning you will start and finish with the same group of students in lockstep. The curriculum is pretty prescriptive. Of those 54 credits, you have 3 electives. But one thing we like to note about this program is many other institutions will offer dual degrees, let's say a degree in environmental science and then a degree in policy. This program is offering all of that in 1 year. And we have a 20-year history of being able to offer this in 1 year in a very successful manner. So I really encourage you today, if you are interested in policy or sustainability, and this wasn't on your radar, by all means, check out our breakout session on the same floor. The one other element I want to highlight specifically about this program that I think is quite distinct is the workshop sequence. So you actually will have a through line from environmental science, policy, and the management curriculum through this workshop sequence. Your first semester, in fact, you'll be looking at a bill that hasn't passed yet and assess it from an environmental lens. You'll also be looking at a bill the second semester from a policy lens, and then your final workshop sequence is a course with an active client, usually a nonprofit organization, an NGO, or a government agency. So again, you're applying everything that you learned in the MPA program specifically to that final semester workshop sequence. And one other thing I want to plug about this is that the website has all of our workshop sequences posted over the last 15 years. So if you wanted to dive deep and see, well, who are the clients from the past years, what type of projects were worked on, you're able to view all of those. Rounding out is the MS in Sustainability Management. I certainly saw the largest number of hands go up for this program. It's a phenomenal, phenomenal program. Established in 2010, one of the oldest sustainability management programs in the country, has 400 students currently enrolled, and with over 1,000 strong alumni network. The MS in Sustainability Management program is very flexible in nature. Whereas the first 2 programs I discussed are full-time programs, this program specifically allows for part-time or full-time enrollment. Approximately 2/3 of the students enrolled in this program are part-time working professionals, and the curriculum is very flexible. I'll go into that shortly. We also have incredible practitioners and scholars teaching within this program and all of our programs, But I like to highlight in terms of the curriculum itself, it's 36 credit hours. There's only 2 courses every sustainability management student must complete. The first is sustainability management in their first semester, and then the final semester is this idea of, again, transforming concepts into practice. You'll be working with a live organization in a team-based capstone project. All the remaining courses can be completed in, I call them buckets. The official word is content areas. And so you will be completing courses, for example, in economics and quantitative analysis. Something else that's very distinct about this sustainability management, especially if you're comparing others, is the fact that we have curriculum specifically for the physical dimensions of sustainability management, essentially the science of sustainability. And many of those faculty, again, the through line being Lamont researchers. We also have a public policy component within this program. As we all know, decision-making is not only based on the bottom line, but also based on policy dictated by governments. And then, of course, the general financial management component of the program. I also want to briefly highlight certifications that are available. There is a certification in sustainability analytics, certification in sustainable water management, and a certification in sustainable finance. This is a 36 credit hour program, and it's possible that you wish to dive deeper in a specific subject area. If that is the case, then we have phenomenal certifications that are available. They are 12 credit hours as standalone credentials, and we have seen a number of students, and I'm certain Maria Gray will be discussing this during the breakout session, but a number of students that have maybe started as a certification student and then transitioned into the actual degree program itself. The final degree program that we'll be highlighting today is the Masters of Science in Sustainability Science. This program, if we're going to look at, again, distinguishing characteristics, it's important to note that this program is the one program that does require that the applicants have a STEM background in order to be competitive as a candidate for this program. It is a requirement. This program was designed, again, the through line of Lamont, designed by Lamont Doherty Earth Observatory scientists. In fact, the majority of your faculty will be Lamont faculty. And the program, similar to sustainability management, allows for part-time and full-time enrollment options. It is geared to the practical application of science and requires a background, as I noted, in science, engineering, or other technical fields. Although go to the breakout session, I do know that some students might be competitive for this program. Let's say you have an economics degree and a very strong quantitative background. It might be worth having a discussion with our program liaisons during the breakout session. This program is structured almost identical to the MS in Sustainability Management program in that it is also a 36 credit hour degree with just 2 required courses that all sustainability science students must complete. The first being a sustainability science course in your first semester, and then the final being a sustainability capstone course. Again, the idea of transforming those concepts that you're learning in this program into practice, working with a live client. Similar to sustainability management and the MPA and environmental science policy program, you're able to watch those capstones online. They're fully available to you to really see kind of live action what our students are up to. And I'll just do one more plug for the MPA program. We have a workshop sequence coming up at the end of November that you're able to register for and see as a live stream. So I am now going to head and wrap up and just highlighting that our program breakout sessions will have the application details, financial aid, and I just hope everybody really enjoys today. So I'm going to go ahead and welcome my colleague, Alex Schroeder, who will be moderating our faculty panel. Thank you, everybody. While they're getting settled, so I did a little bit of a litmus test. Who came the furthest? I heard Houston was one. Lucia, right? Houston. I have New Mexico's in the house. Where? Northern Ireland. Wow. By the way, I love Dairy Girls, the television show. Love it. Where else? Is anybody else from abroad joining us today? Oh, phenomenal. Where are we coming from? Chile, welcome. Where? Mexico, welcome, welcome. All right, now on to Alex. Thank you, guys.
All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm so excited to be here to moderate our faculty panel today. My name is Alex Schroeder. I'm the Associate Director of Academic Initiatives at the Columbia Climate School, and I'm also an alumni of the SUMA program. So I'm going to start off by introducing my esteemed colleagues on the panel today. So first we have Dr. Braddock Lindsay, who currently serves as the co-director of the Master of Science in Sustainability Science program. He is also a Lamont Research Professor in the Lamont Doherty Earth Observatory. He serves as the director of the Lamont Doherty Stable Isotope Laboratory, and his research includes utilizing the geochemistry of corals, microfossils, and marine sediments to document past oceanographic and climate conditions over a range of timescales. Next, we have Dr. Stephen Cohen. Dr. Cohen is the Senior Vice Dean of the School of Professional Studies and is also a professor in the practice of public affairs at the School of International and Public Affairs. He is the director of the MPA in Environmental Science and Policy program at SIPA, the director of the MS in Sustainability Management program, and also the director of the Earth Institute's research program on sustainability policy and management. In addition, Dr. Cohen served as the executive director of the Earth Institute from 2006 to 2018. Next, we have Rochelle McCadney. Rochelle is an environmental and social risk management professional with global experience in the energy and extractive industries. She is currently the vice president with Citigroup in environmental and social risk management and serves as an adjunct associate professor for the workshop in applied earth systems management within the MPA in Environmental and Science and Policy program. She's also an alumna of the MPA in Environmental and Science Policy program at SIPA. Next, we have Dr. Ming-Feng Ting. Dr. Ting currently serves as the Lamont Research Professor in the Ocean and Climate Physics. She is an adjunct professor of Earth and Environmental Sciences and also a co-senior director for education at the Columbia Climate School. Dr. Ting also serves as the co-director for the MA in Climate and Society program. Her research spans a broad range of topics in climate sciences, including Asian monsoon variability in climate and change, droughts and heat wave mechanisms, the Atlantic multi-decadal variability and impact, polar lower latitude interactions, and tropical cyclones. And last but not least, we have Sean Hoyt. Sean Hoyt is a sustainability professional focused on addressing climate-related risks and identifying the impacts and opportunities they create for our communities. Sean currently serves as the head of Clean Energy Networks at Con Edison, where he provides strategic oversight and leadership geared toward the cultivation of cross-sector industry partnerships to advance an equitable, clean energy economy. Sean also currently serves as a lecturer in the Integrative Capstone Workshop within the MS in Sustainability Management program. And he is also an alumni of the Sustainability Management program. So we are going to start off. We have a few questions that we'll ask each of our panelists, and then we will end with Q&A from the audience. So my first question, and I'm going to go in order here. My first question is, how does your research and practice inform the courses that you teach? So go ahead, Dr. Lindsay.
Hi, thanks for coming today. As I heard the early introduction, most of our faculty in our program actually are Lamont research professors, or they're affiliated with Lamont. So we directly bring the research that they're doing, cutting-edge research, into the classroom, talking about real-world current problems, and we try to talk about the scientific aspects of those problems and the potential solutions, and we try to train students, we think, to be the scientists in the room when these important sustainability decisions are being made.
Great. Go ahead, Steve.
Do you want the whole story?
Condensed.
Well, when I was a little, no. Well, I guess, so the Environmental Science and Policy program started in 2002. And the Sustainability Management Program was 2010, and they both reflected sort of different impulses and parts of my own background. So I was in the EPA in the late 70s and early 80s, working in water and waste management and toxic waste, underground storage tanks. The first thing that I noticed is the government was really bad at managing itself. So my first work was something called the Effective Public Manager. And I wrote about contract management and quality management in government, and then moved on to strategic planning for regulation. How do we develop ways of influencing the behavior of polluters, not just using command and control regulation, but a whole range of techniques. So I worked on applying strategy to environmental regulation, all of which led to the thought process that most decision makers in government didn't know any environmental science, but were making environmental decisions. And so how do we create a policy program where students at least had an introduction to environmental science? And I'd worked with many Lamont scientists to develop a curriculum for the environmental science and policy program. This is an intense year-long program that requires full-time study for 12 months or 11 months and an intensive summer of environmental science. It's a great program. It's 20 years old, and it is a proven track record of success. But the key difference between this and a regular public policy program is first an emphasis on management, because everything I do has that, but also we brought in environmental science. So our students graduate with a knowledge of environmental science and how it applies to environmental policy. But one of the problems with the program is it was too intense for every program also that could attract working professionals, and at the same time the field of management seemed to me to also need to reflect sustainability issues. So I wrote a book called, first I wrote a book called Understanding Environmental Policy, which influenced the ESP program, but then I wrote a book called Sustainability Management, which was to try to frame the field of sustainability management and create the curriculum for that. Management program, what we call the physical dimensions of sustainability. And this is environment, it's also energy efficiency, it's a whole range of issues broader than simply environment itself, but the whole range of issues on environmental sustainability. And then the field of sustainability management itself has been evolving. So when we started, we're doing what I now call the subfield of environmental sustainability. But what's happened is it's evolved. It now includes diversity, equity, inclusion, and access. It includes corporate governance. It includes community impact. And so our curriculum has expanded to include all of those subjects. If you had told me in 2010, when we started the program, that I'd have 3 courses on sustainability in fashion, I would have told you were nuts. But here we are. We have 3 courses that we have 4 courses on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and on social justice and environment. All of our management courses now include treatment of that. So I guess what I'm saying is the practice in the field, my own research, the research of my colleagues in our sustainability policy and management team, it's all gone right into the classroom. And so our curriculum is cutting edge. We're way ahead of anybody else. We also, in both of our programs, the 2 programs I direct together have a couple thousand graduates. So we really have an unsurpassed alumni network. You can't really work in this field without tripping over our alums. There's 2 of them on the panel here. So I guess I'll leave. That's the short version.
Yeah, that was great. Rochelle, go ahead.
Sure, I can certainly attest to everything that Dr. Cohen just said. In fact, hearing it in retrospect just reminds me of how privileged I was to have that early exposure. I don't know, can everyone hear me? Okay. I'm a 2009 graduate of the MPA ESP program, and as Dr. Cohen just mentioned, that was kind of the seventh cohort for the MPA ESP program, and right before the SUMA program had started. I started the program before the Obama administration started, and had an eye towards going to work in a policy space, actually before he was even elected, so it was a very exciting time on campus as I reflect. And I actually did not see that my career path would necessarily lead to finance, just a little bit more color about me and what I bring to the classroom. I went to work for the U.S. Congress was very excited about the potential passage of climate-related legislation, and when it stalled in the Senate, I thought it might be best for me to find other avenues. So I went to Texas. I thought there was a lot of work that needed to be done there, specifically for an oil company you may have heard of that had a very large spill in the Gulf. That was a tremendous learning opportunity, and it really brought to life a lot of the super fun lessons that Dr. Cohen conveyed to us in the classroom. And I'd say basically I became I don't want to say a master of all trades, jack of all trades or Jane of all trades, master of none, but I learned how to deploy, different types of skill sets that I developed on campus, primarily around science communication, quickly distilling, insights from a range of sources, and, also just navigating following my time in Texas, I came back to New York, where this was mentioned in my intro, focused on environmental and social risk management as it relates to project financing and increasingly debt capital markets. My specific course and what I bring to the classroom in the capstone environment is advising students on their communication as it relates to the interpretation of policy, and sort of bringing that experience that I had with the vagaries of the policy process, as well as the time and limited information that is available to us as professionals in order to craft recommendations for implementation at the agency level. It's a tremendous privilege of mine to return to campus this semester. Feels like a real full circle moment, and I certainly remember when I was sitting in seats like you all, attending the all-Ivy student fair to understand the range of environmental career fields that might be a possibility. I think at the time, carbon trading was very, very much in vogue, and we've kind of seen where those changes have emerged. But I will just, in closing, to say, certainly be agile and adaptable and paying attention to all of the changes. But should you decide to come to Columbia and particularly choose the program that I'm an alumna of, be prepared for a very exciting ride, lots of exposure, and you never know what doors it'll open in future.
Great. Go ahead, Mingping.
Hi, everyone. So it's very exciting to see everyone here today. And I'm co-directing this program called Climate and Society. And the program's developed actually about 20 years ago. Basically, the original motivation is to communicate climate science to user community, and it started with the IRI, International Research Institute for Climate Society, where the aim of that institute is to perform research and climate service and directly interact with people who really needs that information, particularly the global south, the developing countries. So the idea of training people who can actually help us do that, students, younger generation, to be able to be the communicators of climate information and perform climate service to the user community is really the ultimate goal of the program. Of course, over the 20 years, the program has grown a lot. So we now have focuses on, climate adaptation, climate change impacts, a lot of the climate-related risk, climate crisis is really at the center of the program now. But communicating climate information is still the ultimate goal. So in terms of this question, all our faculties are, as I said, from the International Research Institute, it's a mouthful, IRI, and they are practitioners in the field. They are constantly traveling to all over the world, working with communities and trying to solve the problem, poverty, droughts, whatever climate disaster that's hitting, and they are there to help solving those problems. So they are in the classroom with the students, so it's really a very deep kind of experience for students to be able to experience that kind of teaching. And myself, I'm a climate scientist, as Alex mentioned. I do a variety of research. in terms of bringing into the classroom clearly, and I teach this course called quantitative modeling of climate-sensitive systems, and where we basically involve a lot of the statistical quantitative analysis methods used in digesting and interpreting climate information, climate data. And that is needed, throughout my research all the time. And so we bring in, as researchers, as practitioners, we bring into the classroom the kind of experience we also do in our daily life, in the sense that we encourage students to work together in group projects and in open book exams, because I believe research is done in the open environment. You don't need to memorize anything. So we encourage that kind of thinking, understanding, interpretation. So a lot of group projects, as I said, and final projects encourage students to work as a group, because researchers work collaboratively all the time. So I think it's, in closing, we, as researchers, as practitioners, bringing into the classroom is what puts all the programs here as unique. As you heard from Rochelle and Sean, they're all actually working professionals. So we also, in our program, we also have working professionals as well as researchers teaching in the program. So it's a huge learning opportunity for everyone here. I really hope I'll see some of you in next year's class.
Thanks so much. Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, good morning, everyone, and welcome. When I think back of my journey through the Sustainability Management Program to where I am today, I think about what kind of drew me to the program. And part of that is what we're celebrating this week, whether it's a celebration or reflection, but tomorrow makes the 10-year anniversary of Hurricane Sandy. And during that time, New York was really ravaged. We saw a once-in-a-lifetime or in-a-generation storm that really kind of wreaked havoc all across the city. Now, the company that I work for is Con Edison, as Alex mentioned. It's the electric, steam, and gas utility that serves the 10 million people that live here in New York City and Westchester County. And we were devastated. A lot of our equipment was damaged. We lost power. People died, unfortunately. And I never doubted that the work that I was doing was important. Right? My job at the time, I was an electrician, and part of my role was to, when people would stay home during storms, I was driving into the storm, right? Sort of like first responders. And in the Lower East Side of Manhattan, we have a steam generating plant that took on a lot of water and flooding. And again, transformers blew up, power was lost, people felt stranded, right, including some of my colleagues. I was responsible for going back into that same facility, removing the transformer that had been destroyed and putting a new one in a certain amount of time so that we could restore power to our customers. At the same time, I had other situations happening that really made me question how I could have a larger impact and really help this transition that was direly needed. So I found the Sustainability Management Program. Rochelle, I know it wasn't available when you were looking, but I found the program, and at the time, Dr. Cohen said, it may not be obvious to you today, but within the next decade, you'll see so many careers in this space, where now we see chief sustainability officers at large Fortune 100 companies, right? This was an afterthought back when Dr. Cohen was creating these courses and these programs. Fast forward, as an electrician, I had to learn the fundamentals of how to manage, or how to be in management, so that I could take my next steps to the current role that I'm in today, where I'm leading organizations and really implementing projects to mitigate those climate-related risks such as Hurricane Sandy. How I apply these practices to my course setting is I teach the integrative capstone workshop, which is designed to simulate a real-world experience for students. Dr. Ting mentioned working in groups. It's the biggest group project that you'll ever have. You're essentially consultants for a real-life client, and you're really solving a real-world problem for them. In my role, now I kind of understand I'm the client, so I apply some of the practice, the thinking to my students so that they could be successful in this space, as well as leadership, messaging and leadership sort of qualities that I have learned along the way. so that they could be successful. Actually, the midterm briefing's going to be this Tuesday coming up, so please wish them luck. Our client is Trinity Church Wall Street. They're looking for climate and DEI-related strategies, and I've been able to connect my students with a lot of industry personnel to interview so that they could learn, so that they could really give this client the best outcome that is imaginable. So looking forward to talking to you, and hopefully we will see you on campus soon.
Great, thank you all so much. We're going to move on to our next question here. So all of the programs that you're seeing here today offer, unparalleled access to faculty and academic and professional opportunities. So I'd like to hear from each of you on what kind of interactions do you have with your students, or another way to frame it, what opportunities do the students, prospective students, have coming in each of these programs? Go ahead.
I want to correct something also that I heard earlier when I was coming in, and that has to do with our program and how it relates to SUMA. So our students, most of them have a STEM background, but not all of them. We have some students that are in the finance, business, industry, and have quantitative skills. So in that case, we're training them in the sciences, but they have the quantitative skills. And this also relates to your question, and that is what's kind of unique about our program. We have, these access to the Lamont Doherty campus, and we have roughly 3/4 of our faculty teach or work at Lamont. And there's even though it's not in the city, it's a half hour north of the city, there's a bus that goes back and forth every hour. So there's a lot of students going back and forth. There's a lot of faculty that live in the city like myself that commute up there every day. That we teach the classes in the city. There's a lot of access to Lamont. A number of our classes get students up there on weekends. I know Brendan Buckley, our co-director, takes students out into the forests on weekends up there. Other faculty, we have capstone projects in the city, monitoring. One of them was monitoring air quality on subway cars, which was a really interesting project. And so there's a lot of, all these projects change from semester to semester, depending on what's going on at Lamont, what's funded, who needs help in the lab. And so we try to get our students, the other thing I want to say is our student body is very, very diverse. We have a range of people from biology to engineering to finance to people like myself that are geochemists. And so we work with this broad array of students to try to individually help them design their path forward, in a sense, to let them design their own curriculum, which is why we have a lot of classes that are optional. We have only 3 required classes. I know it was 2. The third one is a statistics and data analysis class, but everything else is optional. And we have a lot of the students in our program are in other programs that are in SUMA and other programs in the campus. So there's a lot of interrelation between these programs.
Steve.
Pass.
So we have a lot of different kind of faculty. We have a lot of different kind of students in the 2 programs that I direct. So let me talk about the different kind of faculty first. As you just heard, we have Lamont research professors. Now, you may not know what the Lamont Doherty Earth Observatory is, or the IRI, International Research Institute on Climate and Society. Also up at the Lamont campus, we have the Center for Earth Information Systems Network, which is a largely NASA-funded operation that takes satellite data and turns it into material that farmers and business people around the world can use in decision-making. The Lamont campus houses the top environmental scientists in the world. It is a powerhouse. Many discoveries on environmental science and climate science came from that campus. It's a wonderful community. When I ran the Earth Institute, it was really a great pleasure to get up there all the time and see that in action. So you have full-time scientists that we somehow bamboozled into coming downtown to teach our students. Because they go up there because they don't really, they could all be senior faculty at other places, but they want to focus on research. We told them, and we talked them into the idea that they have to engage with students because they're all committed to saving the planet. Many of them are. Actually, most of them are. So they come downtown and do that. And for many of them, it's a labor of love. I mean, you don't, it's not really central to their professional ambition. So they engage with students out of a love for doing that. Then we have people like you see here, some of our graduates who are practitioners in the field doing this work, directly translating that work into the classroom. And then the third type of faculty are people like me who are academics. You know, I mean, I'm a very practice-oriented academic, but, you know, I've been working at Columbia University for 4 decades, so I have to confess I'm an academic. We have other academics. And so they engage with students in the way that you probably are familiar with your traditional faculty-student interaction. But one of the things that's characteristic of our programs, and you heard about it for Climate and Society, it's the case in all of the programs, is that, first of all, they're cooperative and not competitive. What I say at orientation is look around you. If we're successful, everybody here will be here at graduation. We're not trying to eliminate people. That's where the group work comes in. People help each other because to solve these problems, you need every discipline. You need law, you need policy, you need economics, you need environmental science, you need engineering, management. They all have to work together. And so we're creating the people that are those translators. All of these programs do that. So they are the people who, you know, perhaps a little bit more scientific, in my case, in MPA, a little more policy or management, in Climate and Society, focused on the climate issue specifically. The other programs tend to look at a broader range of environmental sustainability. So the student culture is cooperative, collegial, and helping each other. Because when you get into the field, nobody has a monopoly of knowledge of this field. You need each other desperately. And so we build a culture around that. And it's built, first of all, on these Lamont scientists who have decided that they couldn't just contain their knowledge to the research world. The IRI was started by a guy named Mark Kane, as was the Climate and Society program. Mark was and his colleagues developed the first mathematical model to predict the El Nino effect. And Mark was frustrated because nobody was using what he had discovered. So he created this master's program specifically to create professionals who could then apply climate knowledge in the actual real world. So the IRI has these scientists and this service unit that creates new science and modeling, but then brings it out into the world. So all of these programs are built on the same philosophy, and the idea of working together with students in a community effort is really at the heart of what we do, and you'll see that in every one of the programs that the Climate School launches.
Michelle.
Thanks, Dr. Cohen. I again, echo all of the sentiments and, are a tremendous beneficiary of the interdisciplinary nature of the MPA ESP program. I will say that throughout my career and certainly during my one-year program, leaned heavily on both my professors in the classroom, but also the broader ecosystem of webinars, presentations, opportunities to visit the Lamont Doherty Observatory. Been on the Earth Institute mailing list since 2009 and have benefited just from the research discussed and access to a range of academics and practitioners that have a deep bench of experience that I continue to benefit from. I think at this stage, I really encourage the students in my classroom to take advantage of the full Columbia universe, Columbia in the city of New York, as they are looking at potential capstone groups that they would like to join. I mean, our ESP program is very unique in that there's that continuity of our cohort, and students have 2 semesters with one topic where you have the policy and the science lens. But through their elective courses, when I was a student, I certainly benefited from an elective at the law school, at the Food Foundation School of Engineering, and also at the Graduate School of Architecture, Planning, and Preservation, relating to the built environment. So in keeping with that vein, I certainly encourage prospective students and certainly students enrolled in the program that are in my workshop to take full advantage of the range of resources available to them and try to encourage them not to get overwhelmed, because there are seriously a lot of cool things going on, and any opportunity to kind of interrogate and interact with complex topics that you may have only just read about, certainly be instructive as they move forward through their academic studies and into their careers.
Yeah, so I think a lot of the things touched upon all apply to what I'm going to say in terms of sort of, researchers and practitioners in the classroom and that kind of firsthand experience working with professional, researchers and practitioners in the very direct sense. And we have a lot, all the courses design a lot of the group projects, which is aimed to mimic basically real world situation. For example, in our basic dynamics of climate class, our faculty design projects like asking students to communicate the basic physical science of climate to people who have no idea what climate science is about. Right, so the basic communication skills, so projects like that, and we also design projects linking data and justice issues. So they work with community, reach out to community, and co-production sounds not so much in terms of research, but understanding the problem based on quantitative analysis. So these kind of classroom research experiences are already very rich in the program. In addition, we also have GRA, Graduate Research Assistantship, every year. So for those students who are really involved in research, they can apply to those positions. It's part of the assistantship as well. It's paid position. And the most important part is, of course, you get to work with the top scientists in the field, experts in the field. And then we also have summer internship, which is required a part of the course. So every students have to do either a summer internship working with a real organization outside, or they can work on a capstone, like you've heard in the sustainable management course, and another program already talked about the capstone. So we also have capstone workshops in the summer, involve students in solving real world problem. And they are all supervised by working professionals, again, researchers in the field. I myself, have served as GRA advisors for many of our students, so they get to see how I do my research in real action. So lots and lots of opportunities.
Thanks. Go ahead, Sean.
Yep, fully agree with what my fellow panelists have already conveyed. And I would just add that as a student, I really got involved in volunteering. We have a number of student groups. The one for sustainability management is called SUMASA. That's the Sustainability Management Student Association. And I led that group for some time. And what it really did was give me exposure to a lot of different parts of the industry. That being said, working at Edison, I also connected my fellow classmates to industry, taking them on tours of the power plants or within our different facilities that they could learn about some of the large technologies and things that we were reading up on and researching. And I brought that same sort of atmosphere to my classroom today. So we have one of two mandatory courses, which one is mine, the capstone, which you take at the end of your journey through the program curriculum, and then the Intro to Sustainability Management that Dr. Cohen teaches alongside other key professors. And one of my goals for my students, which are 13 this semester, is usually 15 students or less, so they could have a closer relationship with the adjunct faculty, whereas in a larger course that may have 50 plus, it may be harder. But I've been able to connect my current students to industry and to volunteer opportunities. I also sit on the board for the Columbia Alumni Association, which is the governing sort of volunteer body for all schools at Columbia University, where I have invited some of my students to some of our events, where one of them is now on the board as a student representative for the Alumni Association. Right, so the opportunities are always going to be there. You just have to be willing, able to take advantage of them. I think Rochelle mentioned perfectly that you could get overwhelmed. There are a lot of emails, there are a lot of different events going on, but as long as you manage and prioritize, I think that if you take advantage of them, you'll hit the ground running. I've also been able to connect my students to work opportunities when they graduate. You should really start looking. I think from day one, I wouldn't say put too much time and effort into it when you start your coursework, but it's something that you should be thinking about the entire time as a student, because the last thing you want to do is wait till the end and then you're completely overwhelmed trying to find employment opportunities. A lot of the relationships that you build with your fellow classmates will open doors to employment opportunities as well. I always tell my students that a group project that goes wrong may come to bite you in the professional world later. So just be mindful of that. And again, there's no better place in New York City to be connected to industry.
Great. Thank you all so much. So I think we touched on this a little bit, but I do want to give everyone here an opportunity to add if you feel the need to. Is there anything that you would like to highlight that makes your program or programs really special? If there's anything you want to add, go ahead, or we can move to our next question, but I wanted to give you the opportunity.
I think something that's special to me in our program is the fact that we have very small classes. Our average class size is around 10 students. The largest class is our carbon capture class, which only has 25 students in it. So the classes are small, and there's a mixture of students from different programs in the classes. So students work in groups, and in many of our classes we focus on group projects and also publicly discussing some of these complex scientific issues. So there's a lot of work on public speaking and writing skills, which is something I strongly believe in. We have, and we also just some of these issues that I think we cover most of the significant sustainability issues facing society today, and some of these issues are pretty controversial. So we do have a class in how to manage discussing diverse stakeholder interests on some of these complex issues where there's a lot of different people with different views of what's going on, and also it involves disinformation, all that aspects of that. So to me, that's what's pretty special about our program, is that we have this really intimate discussions in the classroom and outside the classroom about a lot of these really complicated issues that we're all facing in the near term.
Does anyone else want to add? Yeah.
I guess what I'd say is special is our students are mission driven. They come to these programs, sure, they want to get ahead, they want to make a living, everybody needs to do that, but they also want to save the planet, and they all come for that reason. They could go to a business school, they could go to a law school, they could go to our students are incredibly talented, they could always go to those kinds of places, but instead they come here because they want this experience and exposure to the faculty, but also to each other. And what's really special is that sense of spirit and mission that I certainly try to reinforce, our faculty reinforces, but it's just there. And it's just, you can't escape it, and it's a really kind of warm feeling, frankly, when you know everybody around you is there for pretty much the same reason.
Thank you. Yeah. Michelle, if you want to add anything.
I'll just quickly add that, I don't know why I feel so inclined to being close to the microphone, but I do think that those summer of the MPA ESP program is really special. I know that Dr. Cohen has already mentioned, and also Alfred, that get a broad base of science, but I think that it's really valuable in an academic context as opposed to having the stressors of the workplace and sort of just dense reports, or maybe if you don't routinely read IPCC reports, but you certainly understand the urgency of the climate crisis. Having a climatology class and access to, leading professors that will help you understand how models were generated and kind of walk you through their process, as well as I gravitated more to the environmental chemistry and toxicology courses, and that kind of dictated where I started my career. But even now, 13 years later, I remember the lab exercises and particularly some of the challenges that my lab group faced. So I certainly echo Sean's point in terms of the importance of showing up and being there and being a good team player in the academic setting. It makes when you're in the workplace and making critical decisions with, again, very limited data or maybe just proprietary information, well equipped to discern what is credible and what isn't. So I think it's amazing that so many of you have a wealth of programs to choose from, where you have an opportunity to engage with these topics in real time in the classroom where, while the risks are still high, but where your mission-driven nature and idealism can lead you to solutions that some of us in the workforce are a little more constrained. Unfortunately, not specifically mentioning any of my workplaces, but just noting, other competing factors to consider. And with that said, for those, students that are able to speak to me, I certainly, encourage them to continue to really maximize on the exploration, and that will make the path forward, that much simpler in some instances.
Great. Yeah.
Oh, you sorry.
Yeah, so, I wanted to, we already talked a lot about the features of the program that really we feel is really unique and great experience for students. One other thing I wanted to highlight for particularly our program, applied to probably all the programs here, is the interdisciplinarity of the program. Climate society, obviously from the name, climate science combined with societal impacts. But bringing the two together is like how we created the program in the very beginning, and it becomes clear now, that these are so tightly connected. Climate science, climate impacts, pretty much impacts every corner of the world. You can't imagine anything that's not impacted by climate now. So we really need sort of like different background students working together. So that is one of our strongest strengths from the very beginning, but even more so now, that our students come from all different backgrounds. You name it, anything you can think of, even people in the arts, dancers, artists, visual artists, musicians, comedian, we have all in our program. So, it really is so diverse that we feel as faculty member, we learn so much from our students because they bring in so many different perspectives into the program. And through working together, as we talked a lot about group projects, that is obviously the big feature of all the programs here. And through work together, you learn from each other as well, because you all bring in different perspectives, different expertise into the classroom, into the projects you work on. And so not only you're learning from the world-leading scientists, researchers, practitioners in the program, but you also learn from each other. I think that is a feature that we can't emphasize more. It's so important. Even though students sometimes come to us like say, oh, I don't have any quantitative background. I don't feel like I belong. We always tell them, no, you absolutely belong, because what you lack we'll give to you, but what you bring into the program is what we really cherish. So.
Thank you. The thing about answering questions last is that my fellow panelists leave me little to say, right? Alex, I'm not suggesting I go first next. That's
Okay,
not
noted.
what this is about. No, but if I could add anything, it's the flexibility. I was working full-time, still am, at Con Edison, and the way that the course and the program was designed was for part-time students, right, like me. The classes were at night or in the evening, so I was able to go after work from 6 to 8 p.m., taking 2 courses a semester, right? So I got the most out of my experience. Oftentimes I say that the part-time path is the best path because I get to meet so many more brilliant and bright people along my journey. Obviously there's trade-offs if you have to be full-time, or if you're looking for a job immediately, it's probably best that you go full-time. But I would say the flexibility and then the evolution. The program's continuing to evolve. You heard Dr. Cohen talk about there being multiple fashion courses and diversity, equity, and inclusion. Those didn't exist when I was a student. So I'm very happy to come back now as a faculty member and see the evolution of the program. And as well as the opportunity to take courses in any school at Columbia as long as it fits within the curriculum. So oftentimes we had students go off to the business school to take a course, or to the law school, or to SIPA. It's just the flexibility is unparalleled, in my opinion.
Great. Well, thank you all so much. That was wonderful and enlightening. And I'd like to open it up for questions. I would just ask that you direct your question to a panelist or a couple panelists. Yeah, go ahead.
Climate change, well, thank you. Hello. Climate change and environment are global issues. And unfortunately, nature doesn't know about political divisions. So I want to know about all the programs, what is the global view that the programs have? Because for public sector, for example, US public sector is very different from the public sector around the world, especially if you want to work on environmental issues. Also in science, how, for the Masters in Science, how is this research helping, wherever it's done, especially if it's done in the global south, how is helping change the actual situation toward more resilience or more adaptations or so on. And for the Master in Arts, climate is also an issue of justice. So how is justice being addressed on this, on this program, especially global justice? Thank you.
I want to start with Rene Dubois said that we should think globally and act locally. And it's true that the planet doesn't, and ecosystems, the biosphere doesn't recognize national sovereignty, but that's how the world operates. So all of these programs have to deal with the complex relationships between governments, the private sector, and the planet, and also the fact that different parts of the world are developing at different rates. And so it's a very complicated issue. I'm a political scientist, so this is actually my home discipline, trying to figure these things out. I can tell you that it's a struggle, but the way that I always put it for problem solving is that we actually, in the public sector, never solve problems. We make them less bad. The public policy is remedial, serial, partial, and incremental, moving away from the problem. So, for example, here in New York City, in the 1990s, we had over 2,000 homicides a year. Despite some crime spikes, we're still well below 500 a year today. So that makes it less bad unless you're one of the 400 or so people that got killed last year. And so that's the nature of the world we're in. We're not going to make it perfect. We're going to make it better. I hope that through the efforts of the people on the panel and the students who are going to be coming to our programs, that you will make it better. I mean, that's what I'm putting my faith in. My faith is in the idealism and the skills of the people who are interested in what we're doing. And I have to say that having worked in this for most of the last 40 years, things are better in many respects than they were before. These issues were fringe issues when I started working on them. Nobody paid attention. Now they're at the center of global discussion. And so I have a great deal of faith in human ingenuity and in the fact that we're going to solve these problems, or at least make them less bad.
Dr. Lindsay, do you want to add anything about the science program? Because that was mentioned.
So I was making a list here of some of the subjects we cover in our sustainability science classes, and they range from global issues like sea level rise and ocean acidification and micro and nanoplastics in the ocean, right down to to local problems like how those exact issues relate into like the Hudson River estuary. So in many of our classes, we talk about these problems on a scalable way. We talk about global sea level rise, for example. Then we'll talk about how that will translate into the U.S. East Coast, which you might not be aware of, but there's some hot spots of sea level rise in the East Coast down around Virginia, Delaware, New Jersey. And as you go farther north and south, the problems aren't quite as going to be so severe, but there's some complicated tectonic reasons for that. But so we talk about these issues and these because they're both global issues and they're local at the same time. And then I think we cover most of the major issues, but again, we're trying to talk about solutions, trying to talk about what the issues are, but then what are the solutions, and something we also focus on, and as a faculty, are what I call gray zone issues, like what we don't know, because we try to get students up to the point where we know this and this and this, but we get to the point where we really don't understand this problem, and these are some of the complicated issues. So oftentimes there's a lot of gray zone with a lot of these issues. So we try to take students down that path and realize that it's not always that straightforward.
Great. Ming-Fang, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I was going to just say, I think it's a great question. Obviously, this is absolutely a global issue. And climate science particularly, we researchers work on all of the, research problems all over the world. One of my students currently working on the Pakistan flood this year, which is, devastating flood situation there. And we try to understand the science of it. We also try to think of ways to inform the public, the local government about what they can do about it. So that is, it's obviously is not bounded by political system. These are science-guided advice or recommendations. But I also want to bring the topic of, global cooperation. I think, climate science is probably one of the science, one of the areas that global cooperation is already very productive. In the sense we have the IPCC that's issued once every few years, and that summarizes global hotspots of climate change impact, and that's being distributed everywhere. Anyone can access that information and try to incorporate into their policy in the local region. And then there's the COP. As some of our students are always involved in trying to attend COP, so that those kind of negotiation, international negotiation, discussion, I think is super important for solving this justice issue in terms of how we can deal with this problem. It can inherently an injustice involved, because developing countries are catching up, and developing countries are already kind of contributed a lot to that crisis. So how do we deal with that situation? And those, I think, are definitely part of the education. As Dr. Cohen said, our students will be the one, we hope you will be, solving that problem and at least making things better. And we think it is getting a lot better already.
Great. Do you want to add something?
Oh, sure. Just
Yeah.
very quickly on that, the MPA ESP program being housed at SIPA, the School of International and Public Affairs, certainly has a very international student body, international faculty, and in the classroom you certainly cover a lot of those topics. New York is in a very international city. Having the United Nations right on the east side is very advantageous. This year, Columbia was a co-partner, actually, of Climate Week.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So for those convenings, there were events both on campus and throughout the city centered on those topics where, you saw everything from loss and damage, protesters highlighting the issues of SIDS, small island developing states, and those in the Pacific, those in the Caribbean, where my family's from. So, certainly have an eye towards that justice lens and equity lens. But I'd say the difference between when I was a student, I think I maybe took one course on environmental justice that was at the law school that was largely focused on the U.S. definition of it and examples locally here in West Harlem, up in the Bronx, and down on the Gulf Coast. And then seeing now that there's way more courses available both on climate and health, aspects of environmental justice as it relates to sustainability and into that whole climate justice nexus, that I've had to get up to speed. And it certainly informs my work outside of the classroom, where unfortunately sometimes certain groups will express their concerns about the activities of the private sector as it relates to those topics. But I will say that Columbia is still a big center of my universe. So anytime there's a talk, I think 2 weeks ago there was a global energy summit that brought professionals from both the public and private sector that were grappling with issues that I thought about as a student, worked on in some respects, but there's something special about being in Lerner Hall and seeing the international elites tackling the same sort of issues. So for that original question in the back, I'd say there's certainly a range of experts that come to campus that can heighten both the student experience and the faculty experience, as well as adjuncts like myself.
Great. So one more question? Okay, great. Sorry, I thought we were going to be able to get through more. Can we have one more question and make it brief? I saw your hand first. Yes. Oh, sorry. Right there. Yeah.
Hello. Hi. I'm a 2021 alum from SIPA, so I very much echo the sentiments about the Columbia spirit and how the climate school kind of draws you in with their research over time. So very much relate to that. I've also had opportunities to work since I kind of came on board the Columbia network to work on a few climate problems. Specifically, I wanted to find out more about, I've kind of worked on piecemeal problems in, say, carbon stock estimation, heat waves and droughts, and subseasonal rates, climate forecasting. So it's leading me towards thinking whether I need to step up and kind of be involved in an interdisciplinary program or a doctoral program as a next step. So specifically, would you have any advice for someone who's had some experience but is kind of trying to step it up further, especially on methods, or where to get more information about doctoral programs?
Well, we do have a number of doctoral programs at Columbia, as you know. There's one in sustainable development. There's also environmental science, Department of Earth and Environmental Sciences, one in ecology and environmental biology. I think, I mean, it's a funny heretical thing to say, but I think formal education at a certain point, I think formal education is not the only way to learn. And my suggestion is, since you already have a SIPA master's, put it to work for a while, and when you get to the real edge of your knowledge base, then think about a doctoral program. But you're probably not quite there yet after the last year since you graduated.
Yeah, I just want to add that in the Climate Society program, quite a lot of this, I mean, not quite a lot, I mean, maybe a little bit, like 20 to 30% of the students do decide eventually go on to get a PhD. The program itself is flexible enough so the students come in and design their own, they have the core set of core courses and then their electives. So if students come in who are very interested in pursuing one specific area, they can take more higher level, like PhD level courses. More in the climate science, so there's the DEES program, the Department of Earth and Environmental Science PhD program, and they offer a lot of the courses for PhD students at different levels. So some of our students come into the program and learn the basics about climate science and feel like, oh, that's really something I want to go deeper. So they would take some of the PhD courses in preparation for applying to the PhD program. So that is definitely a possibility.
All right, so I think this ends our panel, and I'd like to ask everyone to help me thank our wonderful panelists for their participation. I do encourage everyone to attend the breakout sessions for each of the programs, and our entire team is happy to answer any questions throughout the rest of today. So thank you so much, and thank you to our panelists.
Morning, everyone. Welcome back. Hope you had an opportunity to grab some coffee and a little bite to eat. My name is Natalie Unwin-Curinary. I'm Senior Director of Academic Initiatives at the Climate School. I'll be moderating today's student and alumni panel. I'm joined by 3 current students and 1 alumnus who collectively represent 4 of Columbia's climate and sustainability education programs. They're here to share their experiences in the program with you and to answer your questions. The goal of today is to really help you understand what each of the programs is about, what you can do with the different degrees, and hopefully by the end of it give you a better idea of which program is the right fit for you. So as you're going to hear, and I think you heard from the faculty panel, there's no one typical profile of a student in these programs. They come from a variety of educational backgrounds and professional backgrounds, but they all share the desire to gain the knowledge and the tools to address the challenges of the climate crisis that we're facing and the very real impacts that are happening on a daily basis. So I'll quickly introduce each panelist and pose a few starter questions, and then I'll open it up to you because we want to make sure that you have ample time to get all of your questions answered while you're here. So Vanessa Lincoln is currently enrolled as an MPA in Environmental Science and Policy student at the School of International and Public Affairs. She's interested in advancing environmental policy in local government and specifically exploring the renewable energy transition and how city and state level policies can drive climate change. She recently worked as an energy consultant with the Build Smart group and graduated with a BA in Environmental Analysis and Environmental Policy from Scripps College. Santiago Oliva Pereno is a current student in the MS in Sustainability Science program at the School of Professional Studies. He's interested in providing sustainable solutions to industries and governments, and specifically in exploring solutions for water treatment and management. Prior to coming to Columbia, he worked as a process engineer at Advanced Mining Technology Center, providing sustainable solutions to the mining industry. And he earned a degree in chemical engineering from the University of Chile. Patrick Beckley is a current student in the MA in Climate and Society program at the Climate School. He's an environmental engineer with 7 years of experience as technical lead on chemical risk management and environmental justice strategy. Patrick earned a BS in chemical engineering from Howard University, and in his spare time, he builds innovative climate tech prototypes that support community adaptation actions. And then we're joined by Jeffrey Prosserman, who's a recent alumnus of the MS in Sustainability Management program at the School of Professional Studies. He's currently the founder and CEO of VoltPost, which has a mission to decarbonize mobility by democratizing charging access. VoltPost is doing this by retrofitting lampposts into electric vehicle charging stations managed by a mobile app, which I personally think is really cool. Love to hear more about that. And he's the former director of innovation at Samsung in New York City and has worked at the forefront of technology for over 20 years. So I'm going to start with questions for our students. So Vanessa, if you could tell us, share with us your climate and environmental sustainability story, your journey, what led to your interest in a mission-driven program like the MPA ESP, and how did you hone in on it?
Yeah, so I first became interested in sustainability back in high school. I did a summer program at Long Island University, Brooklyn, at their Summer Honors Institute on global climate change, and that was really the first time I had ever been taught about climate change, which is kind of crazy. And just faced with the severity of the issue, I just really wanted to do something about it. And then I ended up majoring in environmental analysis at Scripps College. But as I was looking towards grad school, I kind of wanted to start to specify what I wanted to do a little bit more. My concentration in undergrad was in environmental policy. And I had more of a policy background from my undergrad education. But I wanted to get more experience in learning about the science behind climate change, because I think it's really important that even if you're in policy, you understand that so you can communicate that and communicate with scientists. So I thought this program that I'm in, the Environmental Science and Policy program, sounded perfect because it's really a program that's designed to bridge the gap between scientists and policymakers in the climate field. And I thought it sounded perfect for me.
Great, thank you. And Santiago, if you could tell us a little bit about your journey to the Sustainability Science program.
Okay, first, thank you for giving me the opportunity to tell you a little bit about me. The journey of everyone is really long. I only know that when I was a kid, I liked nature, just simple as that. And then there was a huge protest to protect a forest in my country. And I said, okay, I was participating in the protest, and a teacher told me, you want to protect it, you want to be intelligent, and you want to study, and you want to be the best, and you have to be the best. So I said, okay, I have to study, and I come from a country that the environmental programs are not that big. There are not that big institutions supporting environmental programs. So I said, okay, I'm going to be a chemical engineer. That is kind of similar, but not like... And I kept participating. I was the sustainable guy in every institution I've been. When I was in the mining industry, I was like, hey, sustainable guy, what is the solution for solar panels? About water treatment? About these flamencos that is flying around here? And it's like, okay, I needed to have an answer to almost everything. And in this goal to learn more, to protect what I like, to justify my activism, I said that I have to keep learning, to keep surrounded with the interesting people I found, and that's how the Sustainability Science program appeared, because it's about how to make scientific decisions for sustainability, like how to be, like I like to say, like how to be the smart guy giving the advice, saying, hey, we want to protect this, but why and how? That's how I ended up in this program.
Thank you so much. And Patrick, same question for you. What made you choose your program, and tell us a little bit more about your journey here.
Yeah, definitely. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I chose the Master's in Climate and Society program mostly because I realized I had questions that I couldn't answer on my own. I'm an environmental engineer by profession, and I've worked in a bunch of different types, from government to private to public, and being able to like have a project and apply a solution to it especially in climate, you end up realizing there's so many different types of applications that you need to solve problems. And you need help with them, you need collaboration, you need a lot of different tools, and you also need to keep learning. So I saw the program here at Columbia, and it really looked like, it was really attractive in terms of being able to study in New York City, but also learn from some of the best at the Earth Institute and, you know, Columbia's history for environmental sciences, and, you know, be around classmates that also have the same passion and drive to want to find climate solutions.
Thank you. And Jeff, I'll pose a similar but like slightly more nuanced question for you. So what made you choose sustainability management, and then how do you feel that it prepared you for your current role today?
Sure. First, thank you all for the opportunity to speak in front of you today. So I'm a little bit older in coming to the program, decided that it was really time to make the great climate pivot, recognizing that we really aren't leaving a sustainable world for future generations. I came to the program after working in New York City in tech for about 15 to 20 years, bouncing around digital agencies and tech companies and startups. And prior to starting the program, I was at Samsung leading new product development, and really always had a thread of sustainability as a passion, but never really did anything about it. And found that a lot of people are jaded and apathetic and wanted to see if there could be a better way. And as my son, who was beginning to walk, I saw the climate strikes with Greta and others taking the street. So thought that it was time to see if there was something I could do by getting a essentially green MBA with the sustainability management program here at Columbia, to really learn the hard science and the pain points, to try to identify if there could be climate technology solutions, leveraging the experience that I have had, and then putting it into something that could be developed to decarbonize in a meaningful way. So that's kind of the springboard. And then from that, while at Columbia, wrote a research paper actually in one of the classes, which then turned into what is now Goalpost, the company that I'm running that's venture-backed here in New York and San Francisco.
Thank you. I'll pose one more question to the panel, and then I'll open it up to you all. Obviously, the curriculum is incredibly important, and you want to know what you're going to be taking if you were potentially a student at Columbia. So we'd love to hear a little bit more about the courses that you're taking, what you enjoy most and why. And I know that we're still in the middle of midterm, so we appreciate everyone being here and taking the time for that. But yeah, hearing a little bit more about the courses, and we'll start with you, Vanessa.
Yeah, so my program just started at the end of May. It's a one-year program, so it goes from May to this coming May. And over the summer, the summer semester had a lot of science. They kind of front-load the science courses. So it's pretty academically rigorous in that you are taking like 6 classes at a time. In the summer, you take a total of 9 classes, actually, because some of them are half summer classes. So the summer was quite busy, but it was definitely like a crash course in a bunch of different environmental science topics, from toxicology to environmental chemistry, and then a little bit of policy mixed in with that. Now we have, in the fall, a little bit more freedom. We get to take at least one elective, possibly 2 if you test out of one of the core courses. There's like economics and statistics as part of the core courses. But one course that I'm currently in that is an elective I'm taking that I really enjoy is called Financing the Clean Energy Economy. And it's all about, how are we going to make this transition to renewable energy happen? Like, how do we get the finances for this? And understanding, I don't have a finance background at all, so I'm trying to learn all the terms and all the acronyms, and I think it's going to be really useful for what I want to do in the future. And then also we have one of our core courses that's for the entire year is called the Workshop in Applied Earth Systems Management. And for the summer and the fall, we get to work on a piece of environmental legislation. In the summer, you learn about the science behind that legislation, and in the fall, you actually you pretend it was passed, and you develop an implementation plan for it with everything from the budget to the master calendar. And I think that course is also one of my favorites because it's just really like what you would do in the real world when you're passing a piece of legislation. So I think that's really useful.
Okay, this is actually a really hard question because sustainability science, and I think that SUMA is also really similar, we have flexible courses. Like you have to take 3 mandatory courses of 12, and the other 9, you can take whatever you want. So why is it? Because sustainability and sustainability science is a huge topic. Like when I gave my last example, like, hey, do you know about solar panels? But do you know about water treatment? 2 completely different worlds, but 2 complete different worlds from sustainability. So you can, like, if you get to the program knowing what you want, you can focus all your classes to the topic you want to focus. So you can say, okay, I'm interested in water treatment and companies. Okay, I can go to these classes. I'm interested in GHG, greenhouse carbon emissions. I can focus in these classes. Or I take care about greenhouse gases emissions, but I also take care a little bit of management. We can take SUMA classes. Like, I've taken 3 SUMA classes of my 4 classes this semester. Like, so it's really flexible. It lets you to learn what do you want to learn. And also, if you're not sure, it lets you to look what do you want to learn. It's like, okay, I don't know what is my path, so I can take all the paths and say, okay, actually my interest is this one. So it's really useful. And about classes that I value a lot, I would say my capstone. I come from a country that we don't have capstone, so I'm going to explain what is it. Like, it's like a final project of the career that you do like a consulting project. And I did my capstone already, and we did monitoring plan and risk assessment of the decommissioning of a nuclear plant right here in New York. So they're decommissioning a nuclear plant. We were to the location. We saw the possible contaminants. We made a risk assessment. We proposed some equipment to buy, how to measure, how to use it. And today, like 2 weeks ago, I heard from the city government that they're buying the equipment we proposed. And they're doing the monitoring plan we proposed. So again, like Columbia, if you gives you the chance, at least I can say about sustainability science, gives you the chance to make a project with real impact and with real impact to the communities. Like, we had to present the last project in front of the whole city hall with the neighbors, making hard questions. That is like the real life sustainability. Because real life sustainability is not inside a lab, it's inside a lab, but facing the consequences of your decisions. So, and another class that was really interesting is greenhouse gases emissions, life cycle assessment, that all the companies are asking about that. And they're like really entertaining classes. And because there are so many classes, I can be talking about this for an hour. So I think I'm gonna stay here.
Sorry. Yeah, I won't. In addition to everything that they just said, I think for the Climate and Society program, it's really, we're in midterms right now, just full disclosure. So, still going through the process, but I realize it's like really valuable when you make it apply to your own expertise or your background. We've been going very modularly with the different classes. So some of the requirements are like a quant class, a dynamics class, like climate dynamics, also a managing class, so kind of learning it from a more policy and strategy side. And then you have an elective, so mine is in environmental policy and law in New York City. And from all of those classes, they've all really worked together. Like, I'm originally from Freetown, Sierra Leone, and it's a very rainy city, kind of like Seattle. And we'll be in dynamics class learning about, rain patterns around the world, and I'll see like a heavy rain cloud right around, my hometown, like, oh, that's why, like really understanding like the physics behind it, learning a lot about El Nino and ESNO and different things that you're really able to apply to your own personal experience, your own life, your own background. So I think that's been really valuable, how the program really works together as like, you're gonna learn the policy side of it, the science side of it, and then you're able to add in whatever your own electives are. That's been really valuable.
Yeah, agreeing with the rest of the panel, I would just say that wherever you come into the program, because there's a choose your own adventure approach to a certain extent in the variety of courses to pick from for sustainability management, and I can speak to the sustainability science as well, it really allows you to become more well-rounded. So for example, in my case, if I have less of a science background, then you can take courses where you really dive deep and kind of round out that skill set like GHG accounting and really understanding just frankly how the math of this works in order to equate where we have to head. Others who may come in with more of a science background may want more of that business education, and there's certainly tremendous management classes taught by professors who are in the field leading positions in sustainability, executives like sustainability operations as an example, or solar project development. And I just would say one of my personal favorites was with the Earth Institute Practicum, where you get something where you don't really get anywhere else, frankly, in the world, tied to the Earth Institute, all of these climate scientists, and having an individual come in each week to present their work, whether it be the ice caps melting or wildfires, and having firsthand experience of that person for a few hours and being able to ask any questions you want. And frankly, the level of ideas that it sparks and where it can take you, and it's just a welcoming community, which I encourage you to join.
Thank you all. I would also add that the field is, as everyone has mentioned, is very dynamic, and so it's constantly changing, and so electives and new courses are coming on quite frequently to meet that demand and in the field. So that's also a great thing, I think, about being at Columbia. Would love to hear questions from you. I see a hand up over there. I'm not sure if we're passing around a mic, so just give it 1 second. We'll have a mic come to you. Just back here.
Hi, thank you. Ron? This question is primarily for the students, but Jeff, feel free to weigh in too. How are you all thinking about what you're going to do after graduation, and are there any themes that other students or your peers are also thinking about that are pretty common?
Yeah, I currently am considering working in local government on environmental policies, specifically renewable energy. That's what I'm really interested in right now. I feel like I came in to this program kind of with that tentative idea, and then it just really solidified for me the importance of the renewable energy transition and how everything with the climate issue kind of hinges on that. So I feel like that's the issue that I want to work on. I think another common theme I've heard from a lot of my classmates is ESG finance, like going into that area seems to be very popular. A lot of people are on that.
Okay. Okay, I'm my last semester, so it's like a really close question. I want a job? No. But more than that, I'm interested, as I said, in water treatment. I took this career to, I don't want to say run away from mining, but to give other professional options different than my last professional options. And so I would love to work in water treatment, water management systems, but also environmental consulting seems like a really good option for everyone who is participating in this program. And I can tell from my classmates that we are all looking for a job together and competing for these positions. Mostly are looking for consulting companies, and there are a lot of new positions, mostly related to the use of GIS in contamination and also greenhouse gases inventories.
Yeah, I would say for me, I'd continue working as an environmental engineer, but the programs really helped me answer some of the questions that I had initially in terms of different career aspirations or even different applications of climate science, and it's really helped me become a better version of myself. So improving my work, improving my ability to just kind of draw from different places that I've learned or things that I've learned like in school and apply them directly to professional.
And I'll just answer that in a different way, which is we actually started this company while we were master's students. One of my co-founders I met here at Columbia in the program. We co-led an environmental entrepreneurship student group, and then tapped into, in the midst of the pandemic, all these resources that Columbia has to offer, courses in the business school, which you can then take as cross-reference, meeting people across the Columbia community, and really there's just a tremendous amount of resources if you do choose to take an entrepreneurial path. And everybody's trying to support each other to this tremendous amount of jobs out there for sustainability if you go a more corporate route as well.
On the climate side and try to think of solutions or policy recommendations and ways to really think about how to apply things in the city in a real way. But then in addition to that, I would say New York City itself is just a really special place because unlike almost any other city in the country, the speed for climate policy or the speed for climate innovation technology to be able to put up a pilot that you may have thought through or a bill that you may have thought like the funds are available, these things could really happen. And New York is really special in a place where people want to see it happen. So it's a great place to really dive deep into policy.
Yeah, just add to that. I mean, the faculty is tremendous, and whether you're more of a business side or policy side, developing those relationships, frankly, you're one step removed from almost any leading organization in the world, if you're part of the Columbia community. So you can choose your path if you're trying to lean more into that. On the policy side specifically, I mean, if you do have recommendations or something you've written here in the Columbia program, there's certainly an opportunity to get your voice heard, and meeting with a professor who may have a certain position leading to another meeting, and then actually having it in the right person's hands to make an impact.
Other questions? I think we had some over on this side. Gentleman up front. There's just a microphone coming.
It's been a lot of information. I work in the education space at this time. I'm actually a physics teacher in high school, and I was just thrust into a STEM, coordinating some students who really, it was so impressionable that the inquiry, that information. And as I listened even to the faculty, I wanted to share earlier, would it be stretching the envelope, or is it outside of the box to engage this amazing program with some high school? Of course, I think it would be an amazing pipeline to see educators getting practitioners of the caliber that you talk about connect at the high school level, which is your pipeline to such fantastic.
So I'll take that one. So the climate school does have staff that work on K-12 education and do have very strong and deep relationships with high schools within the community, and that's an area that's growing. And there's, if there are ways to collaborate with high school students, I know faculty are interested in doing that, but we could definitely talk offline about that in more detail. You're welcome.
May I say something?
Yes.
Hello, sorry. That there's also student groups that are looking activities to do, are looking for something to do, and especially communicate. Science is what we are passionate about. So also making the link with that and making the link with like the student groups could be really useful.
I think we have a question back there now.
Hi, thank you all for being here. I am interested in the Masters in Sustainability Management, but this question is for all of you. What would you guys, or what do you feel are the benefits or disadvantages of coming in straight from an undergraduate versus going into the workforce and being out there for a little bit before coming into a program like this? Thank you.
So I'm 1 year out from undergrad, so I worked full time for just 1 year before coming to the grad school program. And I do think that was useful just to gain some work experience before coming here and gain some knowledge of a certain sector. I worked as an energy consultant, so I learned a lot about building energy efficiency and just having some of that knowledge coming in. But I think definitely probably an advantage of coming, at least like me, only a year out from undergrad is I was still in that school mindset. I didn't get too far out of it. The program that I'm in, like I said, is pretty academically rigorous since you're taking a lot of classes at a time, and it's condensed all into 1 year. So it was good to not be too far removed from just the homework mindset and time management and all of those things.
This is a really good question. Thank you. I think it is important because of the question you can do. Because how you can take advantage of the teachers they are teaching you and you can realize the experience inside the classroom about the question they're doing to the teachers, to the professors. Because if you have professional experience, and it happens to me, like in a remediation class, how to clean sites that are already contaminated, and I saw a lot of contaminated sites in the mining industry, believe me. Like, the kind of question you can make, the kind of advantage you can take from the teachers is different. It happens in the energy sector, it happens in the company sectors and everything. Because I used to come from the activism, later I work in a company, now I want to keep learning, and the languages are totally different. Like if you're an activist and you try to talk with people who are in the market, in the business, who are not bad people, like we speak different languages. So the experience, the working experience, that is not only about like having a lot of knowledge, but it's also about knowing how people are thinking, how they do their arguments, and how you can make different kind of questions. So having like 1 year of professional experience when you're talking with the Colgate CEO, and like it has like some advantages because you can make different questions and learn different stuff.
Yeah, I'll definitely just add on to that. I think either path work, especially since the information is always updating. There's always something to learn. I think this is like an evergreen field in terms of information and applying knowledge. So coming straight out of school, you have that ability to kind of already know how to do schoolwork, and the benefit is you're still going to learn from people, older in their professional career. Like for me, I came 7 years after working in the field, and I see how valuable that's been just from really understanding real life applications to, whatever we may be studying in class. And like if it's thinking about tools or ways to really solve problems from a real perspective, that's been also really beneficial.
I would say that, honestly, we have such a limited window to turn things around that if you're thinking about doing this, then just jump in now. And the reality is, whether you're early in your career or later in your career and thinking that you might be too old for this, you're not, because we all have something to add. And the people who are younger may have a bit more energy and may have less work experience, but frankly, bring a fresh perspective. And the people who are a bit older may have more of that experience, who can then fuse into this community and find ways to collaborate on things in ways you didn't think possible.
And I think there's another question back here.
Hi, yes, thank you so much for taking the time. I was wondering, what is one thing that you wish you knew going into the program? And then also, what has been a high point and a low point? Thank you.
Great question.
To think about this for a second. One thing
There are no low points.
One thing I wish I knew, I guess, yeah, it was, again, I keep saying my program is like academically rigorous because I'm trying to emphasize that, and that was emphasized to me, but I still was like, it was, when you like get thrown, the summer semester it's a lot to get thrown into right away. They really like, you hit the ground running, so just kind of, I don't really know what else I could have done to mentally prepare myself for that, but just being aware of, I guess, coming from working full-time for a year and maybe trying to get myself a little bit more back into that school mindset in preparation. I think a high point for me, or I guess, should I start with the low point? That might be a better order. I guess I don't have a specific low point, but just the finals for our summer semester was pretty rough. The end last week, it was just a lot going on at once. So I guess that would be the low point. And then the high point, I would say, I got the opportunity to be, for the workshop course that I talked about, I got the opportunity to be deputy manager over the summer. When you come into my program, you get to select for workshop the bill that you want to work on, and then you get to put if you want to be manager or deputy manager, because for each of the small groups, you have a faculty advisor, but these are student-led groups and projects. And I didn't have a ton of leadership experience, so I just was like, why not? I'm just gonna say yes, throw myself into this, and I'm very glad I did. It ended up being a great experience. And just like the final project and culmination of that was something I was really proud of, so that would be a high point.
Okay. I think what I wish to know before coming here is what are the good classes. Like to know, like, okay, these 4 classes you have to take them because they're so popular, and if you are in the 2nd or 3rd semester and they're full of people, and you can pass the whole program without taking the best classes. So take GHG, take life cycle assessment, take GIS, please, and know how to write and how to read. Like, please, this for stuff, please don't go out of this program without this for stuff. Like, with GHG, life cycle assessment, how to write, and GIS. Because this for stuff, the world is discussing right now, and if you don't know how to write, how to communicate, you are not that useful. Like, I love math, but I'm learning how to write in English now. Like, my Spanish is not that good, imagine my English. And so I would like to know that before coming here. I know it's part of my responsibility because I didn't have any friend in the program, so I didn't have like this, like, oh, in LinkedIn, please, can you tell me? It was my fault, but I wish to know that before coming here. Related also with the load part, if you're not motivated, if you're not asking constantly questions, you can miss the path between all these voluntary classes. So I have some friends that kind of missed the first 2 semesters because they took like the preachy classes that they're really interesting. There's no bad classes, but there's some classes that are more like philosophical for yourself and not that like professional oriented or scientific oriented. So they spend the first 2 semesters, and then the last semester they're like, oh my God, I have to take like hard classes that the companies would value, and they're desperate looking for classes and writing to teachers. So I think the low point is that this requires your motivations, because freedom is dangerous, because if you have too much freedom, you can get lost. And this might happen if you're not prepared. And this is like my warning, like be motivated, ask people, contact by LinkedIn, ask like everyone in this program. We are all sustainability. I feel we all have a goal of being good people. So everyone will answer like clearly. And the high point, I think, is the networking with classmates, that everyone wants to make this world a better place. So you might not like someone, but at the end you say like, oh, at least he's a good person. Like, that's like a really amazing environment to construct, to discuss, to create new stuff. And also the networking with the Earth Institute and the REI and like all the Columbia network, because I was in a dinner like yesterday with the Washington Post scientific journalist responsible, and she was telling us about the challenges of COVID. And like 1 month ago, I was having another dinner with the ecosystemic services from the UN, and then we have a teacher who make the sea level modeling for the IPCC. So all these connections, all this network, like it's a unique opportunity in Columbia, and also take the chance to meet all these people.
Yeah, those are really great points. I think to add, the speed is definitely something that, you know, I remember speaking with Alfred before starting. He's like, yeah, you know, it's a accelerated course, but it really is. Just mentioning we were already at midterms, and like I couldn't tell you all the buildings at Columbia yet, and you know, still figuring out my way through campus. So the speed is definitely something to be aware of. And I think the high and low point, they're kind of in the same pie. The freedom, right? Columbia has so many resources. I mean, you think about it, it's the school within the city of New York City. So like, just for example, like think about Climate Week. Climate Week was the same week as the UN Week, which is the same week as like, you know, classes. Then you have your life, then you have your, whatever else is going on. You gotta walk your dog. You know, like all these different situations that, you know, you have to choose, right? And really accepting that you have to really decide, like, what are you going to prioritize to do and what are you not, and what are those consequences, as long as you, like, kind of having that conversation with myself about, okay, these are my priorities, and as much as I would like to do this, I know I can't because there's not enough time in the day, but these things also do reoccur. And, you know, like one of the high moments for me was we had a full day of class, and we usually get these Wednesday updates. And at the bottom of it, I saw like Peggy Shepard. She runs React for Environmental Justice in Harlem, and she was doing a practicum talk in one of the lecture halls here right after class, I was like, okay, I'm going directly over there. Like, you know, that opportunity of being able to see people that, you know, you may watch on TV or you really look up to, you read their papers, whatever the case is, and then they're literally on campus. They're doing a talk here. They're going to be here. I mean, you really can't beat that type of access.
So I would say, going in, I wish I just had a better sense, because there's so many great courses, which ones to take in what order, because there's some that would be really helpful to have taken before others in kind of just understanding a broader purview before you go really narrow on certain aspects. That being said, it's really just a question of where you're coming from and finding other students who are in the program to bounce off ideas of which courses can help you find your path. I would say that a low point, I mean, I started the program during the pandemic, so obviously there's challenges with that starting virtually, and I wish, frankly, that there was more opportunity in person, as I'm still running around to some of these buildings and figuring out which ones are which, although we did finish up the last few semesters in person, just having more time on campus. And then I would just say, I mean, the network here, just repeating what others have said, frankly, I found my co-founder here, I found some of my first investors in this company here, some advisors to the company here. The professors are a continued network of just trying to provide introductions and support our journey. The Columbia Technology Ventures team, and there's just really so many connected dots. Once you're part of this community, that you have an unfair advantage, and frankly, anything you want to do, that you're one step away of talking to somebody who is brilliant and able to help point you in the right direction.
Thank you all. That brings us to the end of our panel. There will be breakouts following this for each of the programs. So I know there were some unanswered questions out there, but please bring those to the sessions. And join me in thanking our panelists for sharing all of your insight.